power now, Ms. Rand.
Thank you, Pastor Coffer, for inviting me to spend this time with you discussing a very important need that every one of us has. And we are excited about just being able to get the word out to our people about this responsibility that we all have.
All right. Miss Rand, she's East Texan by birth. She was born in the rural community of Smithland, which is located 18 miles out of Jefferson. She was valedictorian of her class and attended college in Denton at the North Texas State University. And she's a very impressive woman. She's a woman that believes that God has assigned her to this task of bringing information and knowledge to people about life insurance. And so she has a God-given passion for this. And I often say that two things you shouldn't leave earth without, and that is, number one, salvation. You must get your soul saved. And number two, please don't leave here also without getting some kind of life or pre-need burial insurance. So at this time, Ms. Rand, I want to thank you again. I want you to just tell us a little bit about the importance of pre-need and burial insurance. Why it's so important that we take care of this matter.
Well, it's important, Pastor Coffer, because first of all, we're going to die. We need to get used to that idea. We're going to die. And when death occurs, we're going to have to call a funeral home. And we're going to have to go through that process of disposal of the remains. And as you said, hopefully, first of all, that the salvation is in order first.
Yeah.
And then the family needs to be prepared to pay for those final expenses at that time, which can be very costly. Many people today in our families are not as prepared as I would want them to be, and I'm learning that the opportunity has always been here for us to be prepared, but we've kind of pushed it off to the side. We've said, let it wait till later. I'll take care of that when it's time, or just any excuse. But we go on and we plan for everything else. We plan birthday parties, we plan weddings, we plan just baby showers, all of that. But we don't want to plan for dying.
I'd like you to tell the audience, what caused you, what prompted you to get into selling life insurance, or
burial
insurance, all of this. What got you into this?
Thank you for asking me that, because as a child growing up, I used to watch that insurance man come by my mama's house every month. And my daddy had these deer horns that he used for hanging hats and umbrellas and so forth. And of course, that brown envelope was hanging on those deer horns. And this insurance man was the only one that my mom would allow to touch that envelope. And I wondered about that. And I was always curious, but Mom just took care of it every month. Daddy worked and Mom stayed at home and took care of us until my baby sister started school. And then once she started school, my mom went on out to work and continued to work together with my dad to help take care of 8 children. And we were poor, but Dad and Mom knew that we needed certain things in our family. And one of those was that just in case one of us died, that we needed to be buried, and they knew that we needed burial insurance. So that's what they were taught to have, is burial insurance, burial, just to bury us. And that was about the amount of coverage that was provided, only enough to bury, not enough to leave something on top of the ground for the survivors. We weren't given that information, only that we needed to have money to be put in the ground, into the ground. And so as a result of that, my interest was piqued at that time, and I couldn't have been more than 5 years old when this was going on in my life. And I grew on up and attended high school, and then went on to college at North Texas State University, NTSU at that time, now UNT. I was a business administration major, and believe it or not, the most interesting course in business administration was insurance. I really loved my insurance class, made an A in it too. And but I had no idea, even then, that this is what God and where God was leading me. It didn't happen, and that was back in the 60s when I was at North Texas State. And life went on. I had a few jobs. I worked with Ernst & Ernst, which was one of the big 8 CPA firms at the time in the U.S. I worked with Xerox Corporation, where I got into the sales part of my major. And I actually sold copiers for Xerox and telecopiers, as well as word processors. And I got into the word processors where I taught classes and supported the sales teams. And but again, somewhere in the back of my head, there was always insurance. We had a very good friend who at that time worked for a big company called New York Life. And he had come over and introduced us to really good insurance, something that I hadn't heard about as a child growing up. It was called life insurance. It wasn't just called burial insurance. But at the same time, life insurance buries us.
Yeah.
And so we took advantage of buying a life insurance plan with New York Life at that time, and it was a very good plan. We felt like it, and something that we hadn't been accustomed to. And from there, life continued on, and I ended up with a back injury. And at the same time, I was introduced almost simultaneously to insurance, and decided I think I want to be a part-time agent. So I went ahead and took the insurance exam, and I did pass it on my first time taking it, which was a real good thing and exciting thing for me to do. And I then began working with trying to meet people and introduce them to a better insurance plan, because there were better out there. And I was working with some of the companies that offered much better products than had been brought to our families. So it was really exciting for me, and I began to just feel like this is the niche, this is where the Lord is placing me. And I just honestly, the excitement and the fulfillment that I received just anytime that I was able to place someone in a good policy with a good company, it really made me feel good about the fact that I was doing something good for my people. And I know that we needed that. We had not been offered it, which is something I hate to think about, but we just weren't offered the better products back earlier in our lives. All we had was burial. Now we have life insurance, and life insurance is burial insurance as well. And so from there, it has evolved. For now, 25 years, I've been a licensed agent here in the state of Texas, and I've met a lot of people, and I've had to see a lot of situations where people who have died and the family had no insurance to bury their loved ones. And they have had to, in essence, pass the hat, if you will, or take up collections, or do all kinds of things, have fish dinners or whatever, some way to try to accumulate enough money to bury their loved ones, because some had just not taken that responsibility and took care of what was the real need there, and that was to have something that was going to bury them when death occurred.
Well, we're going to take a commercial break at this time, but we will be back, so you want to stay tuned because we have some more great important information we need to share with you. Well, dog, they don't have a commercial break. I just done good.
Am I okay?
Yeah, you're doing good.
My nose is trying to run. I was trying to sniff. It only bothers me in the heat of the summer. I carry some Benadryl. I took like 4 of them to try to dry this up before I got here.
Yeah.
So,
It's done an excellent job. We gonna
okay.
okay. I'm gonna come back on and I guess explain about life insurance. The difference between life, getting a life policy and a pre-need.
Okay.
Do that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I can do that.
Okay. All right. Welcome back to Empower Now. I'm your host, Pastor Stanley Coffer, and we're so happy to have Miss Alva in the studio with us. And I hope that those of you that are listening to this broadcast on today, that you really take time to consider about placing yourself and your family members into a good insurance policy, which is so very important. So, Ms. Alva, some people may not understand how the life insurance work, and pre-need, and sometimes people wondering, it's whole life, there's term life, there's universal life, Sometimes people can get kind of confused about, what I need or what have you. So could you kind of just explain, the benefits and just the guts of life insurance policy?
Okay. Yes, Pastor. Life insurance, as I said earlier, is also burial insurance. It's just terminology. Life insurance can be purchased on an infant at the age of 0 up to the age of 85, which is where most companies go as far as age brackets. And you can purchase anywhere from $1,000, which is not a good amount to start with at all in this day and time. But back in the day when we needed burial insurance, there were a lot of $1,000 policies sold, and there are a lot of those still out there that come to the funeral home when death has occurred. But life insurance is just what it says, life. We need it for the rest of our lives. We need it to protect in the event that we die too early, and of course to protect and pay for a funeral when death does occur. Life insurance, I like to think of it as being able to pay for that funeral and leave some money back with the survivors.
Exactly.
Leave some money on top of the ground for the survivors, for their lives, so that they can continue. We've consistently, when death has occurred in our families, we tend to not have been able to pass on wealth as it has been done in the other communities, in the Caucasian community in particular. They were always able to pass on wealth, and this is done through life insurance. We were passing on debt and have passed on debt to our families through burial insurance, as we were taught to call it, because that's what we thought that we needed, was just burial insurance. Consequently, that